Have you ever had one of those quiet moments alone, maybe late at night, where a small question bubbles up in your mind, but you never really speak it out loud? Something like, is this still okay for me now that I'm older? Or maybe it's just a passing thought, is this little habit of mine affecting me more than I think? It's the kind of thought most people keep tucked away, especially as we age. Society doesn't exactly make it easy to talk openly about things like intimacy or self-pleasure. Let alone how those things change after 60. But here's the truth most folks don't hear often enough: just because it's private, doesn't mean it's unimportant. And just because you've been doing something for decades, doesn't mean it's still serving your body the way it used to. Let me ask you something, honestly, have you noticed certain changes in your body lately? Maybe your energy just doesn't bounce back the way it used to. Maybe your hands and feet feel a little colder than normal, or you're experiencing small circulatory issues that seem to come and go. Or perhaps, on a more personal note, intimacy, either alone or with someone else, just doesn't feel the same anymore. Emotionally flat. Physically less satisfying. Quietly draining, even. Most people chalk it up to aging. And sure, aging plays a part. But what if I told you that some of what you're feeling might not be just age? What if your own habits, specifically how and how often you self-pleasure, are quietly influencing how your blood flows, how your heart feels, and how deeply you connect with yourself and others? That might sound uncomfortable. And I get it, this is a topic we've been taught to avoid, especially in our later years. But avoiding it doesn't protect you. Understanding it does. You deserve to know how your own body is responding now that it's older, more sensitive, and more in need of gentle, respectful care than ever before. Because this isn't just about one private act, it's about the bigger picture. It's about your vitality, your confidence, your ability to stay deeply connected to yourself and to those you love. And maybe most importantly, it's about preserving the emotional closeness and circulation strength that make life rich and meaningful, no matter your age. So in today's video, we're going to have an honest conversation, quiet, compassionate, and maybe a little surprising. I'm going to walk you through 5 of the most common mistakes older adults make when it comes to masturbation. These are mistakes that might seem harmless, even natural, but in reality, they can silently weaken your circulation, drain your energy, and create distance where there should be closeness. And the 5th mistake? That one's the most overlooked, and yet, it could be the key to feeling connected again, from the inside out. Now, before we go any further, I want you to take one small action. If anything I've said so far has made you pause, if it's made you think, maybe I've felt that too, then I want you to drop a simple comment down below, just write "staying strong." It's not just a comment, it's a little promise to yourself. That you're ready to understand your body better. That you're here to take care of yourself in ways that really matter. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join our growing family here at the Elders Wisdom Institute, where we talk openly, gently, and truthfully about the things most people your age are still afraid to say out loud. Because you deserve answers. You deserve clarity. And you deserve to age with knowledge, with grace, and with peace of mind. Now let's get into the first mistake that could be quietly impacting both your health and your heart. Now let's begin with the first mistake. And it's one that's become more common than ever before, even among older adults. Mistake number 1, over-reliance on pornographic stimuli. Picture this, a man in his early 60s. Let's call him Robert. He's retired now. The house is quieter. The days feel longer. Maybe he lost a partner years ago, or maybe they just drifted apart emotionally. He still has desires, just like anyone else, and there's nothing wrong with that. But instead of turning inward or reaching out for connection, he finds himself spending more and more time in front of a screen. At first, it's occasional. a quick escape. Then it becomes a habit. Something he relies on, not just for physical release, but for comfort, distraction, even numbness. It's not that he's doing anything wrong in the obvious sense. But slowly, something shifts. The real world starts to feel a little dull. Emotional closeness becomes harder to access. And what once brought joy now feels like a performance, rushed, detached, and strangely draining. You see, when we rely too much on artificial, high-intensity visual content, especially the kind that's designed to overstimulate the brain, it can begin to rewire how we experience pleasure. This isn't just a theory, it's neuroscience. Your brain has something called dopamine receptors, tiny structures that light up when you experience pleasure, reward, or connection. But when they're bombarded over and over with intense, rapid stimulation, like what happens during frequent viewing of pornographic material, they begin to dull. It's like turning up the volume so loud that your ears eventually go numb. And here's where it gets even more important: dopamine isn't just about desire, it's closely tied to circulation, energy, motivation, and emotional intimacy. When those pleasure signals are constantly hijacked by artificial content, the body starts to respond less to the real, slower, more meaningful experiences, like touch, closeness, and the simple warmth of connection. Now, many people in their 60s and 70s think, what's the harm? I'm just entertaining myself. I'm not hurting anyone. And sure, a little bit of visual stimulation isn't the issue. But when it becomes the default, something that your body depends on just to feel anything, that's when it begins to quietly chip away at your deeper vitality. It's not about shame. It's about awareness. Because real intimacy, even with yourself, requires sensitivity, awareness of sensation, emotion, and the moment you're in. And when that's replaced with a fast-forward version of pleasure, the body forgets how to respond to the real thing. So what can you do instead? You can start by stepping away from the screen. Not out of guilt, but out of curiosity. Try this. The next time you feel the urge to self-pleasure, leave the device off. Sit in a quiet space. Let yourself breathe. Touch yourself not with urgency, but with mindfulness. Focus on the sensation, not the speed. Not the climax. Just the experience of being in your body. Notice how it feels to simply be present. At first, it might feel unfamiliar, maybe even boring. That's okay. It means your brain is recalibrating. It's learning how to reconnect with your own natural rhythm. And over time, that sensitivity returns. Blood flow improves. Emotional response deepens. And the act becomes something more nourishing than draining. You don't need intense stimuli to feel alive. You just need to come back to yourself. Now, while stimulation is one thing, how you go about self-pleasure is just as important. That brings us to mistake number 2, a surprisingly common habit that could be putting unnecessary strain on your body in subtle but serious ways. Mistake number 2. Rushed and aggressive technique. Let me tell you about Harold. He's 72. Lost his wife 5 years ago. Since then, his life has slowed down in some ways, but stress hasn't. Between managing medications, keeping up with appointments, and dealing with the occasional wave of loneliness, he's found himself turning to self-pleasure, not for connection, but more like a pressure valve. The problem? He rushes. Every time. It's not about enjoyment for him anymore. It's about getting it over with. Quick. Private. Mechanical. He barely pauses to breathe. No lubricant. No intention. Just force, tension, and a need to get it done. He figures, I'm older, my body doesn't respond the same. I just need a little relief and that's it. But afterward, something always feels off. His body feels sore. not just in the moment, but hours later. He notices a dull ache, especially in his lower abdomen. His energy drops. Emotionally, there's no uplift. Just a flatness, almost like a subtle sadness he can't quite name. This is more than just a bad habit. It's a biological misstep. You see, as we age, the tissues around the genitals become thinner and more sensitive. Blood vessels don't dilate as quickly. Nerve endings don't fire the way they used to. And when stimulation is rushed or aggressive, it creates friction, both physical and neurological. That friction can lead to micro-trauma. Tiny injuries to nerve endings and blood vessels that may not bleed or bruise, but still take a toll over time. In the short term, this can lead to soreness, fatigue, or even discomfort during urination. In the long term, it may contribute to reduced erectile strength, lower circulation in the pelvic region, and emotional disconnection from the act itself. And here's the thing, your circulatory system and your intimate health are deeply connected. Weak circulation doesn't just mean cold feet or hands. It can mean a slower response during arousal, difficulty achieving climax, or even less sensation altogether. But here's what most people don't realize: rushing doesn't actually make things faster. It just makes the experience more stressful. And often, less satisfying. Some believe, I don't have time for slow touch, or if it won't work unless I do it fast. But those thoughts are usually rooted in frustration or years of conditioning. Not truth. Your body actually prefers slower, intentional touch, especially now. Think of it this way, in your youth, your body might have responded to urgency. But in your later years, it responds to presence. So what can you do differently? Slow down. This isn't a task. This is self-care. Start by choosing a time when you're not rushed. Create comfort in your space, soft lighting, quiet surroundings, even a warm bath beforehand if you can. Use a lubricant. Not because you have to, but because it reduces friction, increases sensation, and protects delicate tissue. Explore touch not just for release, but for connection with your body, your breath, and your feelings. Focus less on the outcome and more on the journey. What does it feel like when you breathe deeply as you touch yourself? How does your body respond when you allow arousal to rise slowly, gently, like a tide rather than a storm? This shift, though small on the surface, can deeply affect how your body processes stimulation, how your blood flows, and how nourished you feel afterward. Because it's not just about whether you climax, it's about whether you feel restored, not drained. And when you begin to embrace this kind of self-connection, something amazing happens: your sensitivity returns. Your circulation improves. And maybe most importantly, the emotional weight that often follows rushed or disconnected pleasure begins to lift. Now, slowing down is powerful. But what if I told you that doing the same thing the same way every time, even slowly, might be setting you up for another silent issue? Let's talk about mistake number 3, a subtle pattern that can sneak up on you, especially if you've been in the same routine for years without even realizing it. Mistake number 3, frequency without awareness. Let's talk about George. He's 68. Still pretty active. Walks every morning. Takes his vitamins. Keeps his mind sharp with crossword puzzles and chess. George believes in taking care of himself, and part of that, to him, means keeping his sexual energy alive. Every day, without fail, he finds a quiet moment to release. He says it helps him sleep better, clears his head, keeps his hormones in check. And for a while, it worked. He felt in control of his body, even proud that he was still going strong. But over time, something started to shift. He began feeling tired more often, especially in the afternoons. His joints felt heavier. He started skipping walks. His sleep wasn't as restful anymore. And maybe most surprisingly, when he was with his partner, he just didn't feel present. The emotional connection was fading. His desire, once automatic, started to feel forced. Like a chore, rather than something real. George didn't change his routine. But his body was changing, and he wasn't listening. You see, there's a popular belief out there, especially among older men, that frequent release is always good for you. That the more, the better. Some even think daily masturbation keeps their testosterone high, their prostate healthy, their system flushed and youthful. But here's the truth, balance is everything. Yes, self-pleasure can be incredibly healthy. It helps release built-up stress. It encourages circulation. It can even help maintain certain hormone levels. But when done without awareness, too frequently, and out of habit rather than desire, it starts to drain more than it gives. Every time you climax, your body releases a flood of neurochemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, prolactin. You feel calm, satisfied. But those same processes also involve the expenditure of vital resources, particularly zinc, which is essential for testosterone production, immune strength, and yes, circulatory vitality. When you're younger, your body can recover quickly. But in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, that recovery takes more time. And pushing past your natural rhythm can quietly chip away at your energy, your mood, even your connection to others. And here's the deeper layer: when pleasure becomes predictable, when it happens the same way, at the same time, with the same mechanical outcome, it stops being pleasure and becomes maintenance. There's no spark. No curiosity. No build-up. Just a routine that ends up flattening both body and spirit. So what's the solution? Tune in. Pay attention not just to whether you can self-pleasure, but whether you need to. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of desire or out of habit? Do I feel more alive afterward, or more empty? Is this energizing me, or slowly depleting my drive, my mood, my warmth toward others? Try spacing it out. You don't have to stop altogether, but stretch the days between. Give your body a chance to replenish. To build anticipation again. Let your energy cycle rise instead of constantly releasing it. Think of it like resting a muscle between workouts. It's in the recovery that strength is built. And you might just notice something beautiful, a return of emotional spark, sharper focus, deeper connection with a partner or even with yourself. Because when you stop running on autopilot, your body remembers how to feel again. So yes, the act matters, but so does the intention behind it. Now, that brings us to something even more powerful. Not what we do with our hands, but what we carry in our minds. Because the next mistake? It isn't physical at all. It lives in belief, quiet, internal, and often invisible to the outside world. Let's talk about mistake number 4, one that silently shapes how we experience pleasure, intimacy, and even aging itself. Mistake number 4, shame and secrecy around self-pleasure. Now, I want you to imagine someone, let's call her Helen. She's 68, recently retired, and widowed for over a decade. A loving grandmother. A proud former school teacher. The kind of person who spent her whole life putting others first. Her days are filled with quiet routines, family visits, reading, but there's one part of her life that no one knows about. Helen still feels desire. Not constantly, but now and then, in moments of stillness, a memory or a quiet craving emerges. And in those private moments, she touches herself, not out of guilt or boredom, but because it brings comfort, warmth, and a strange sense of aliveness. But the moment it's over, that warmth is often followed by something else entirely: shame. She never talks about it. Not with her daughter. Not with her closest friend. Not even with her doctor during checkups. She thinks to herself, what would they think of me at my age? So she keeps it hidden. She pushes the feelings down. And over time, that secrecy becomes a quiet burden she carries alone. But here's something so important, so often ignored in conversations about aging and health. Intimacy doesn't retire when we do. Desire, touch, connection, these are human needs, not phases of life that expire when we turn 60 or 70. Yet for so many older adults, especially women, self-pleasure is still cloaked in silence. Conditioned by years of societal messages, religious guilt, or generational taboos, they believe that wanting to feel pleasure is wrong, immature, even shameful. But science tells us a very different story. When you suppress a natural need, when you carry guilt or shame around something as core to your being as touch and connection, your body pays a price. That emotional stress activates your cortisol response. And cortisol, over time, narrows your blood vessels, tightens your chest, raises your blood pressure, and weakens your heart's ability to pump freely. It also dampens oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and makes real intimacy harder to feel. Not just sexual intimacy, but even emotional closeness. You might find yourself pulling away, feeling less present with people you love, simply because your body is holding back a part of you that wants, and deserves, to be free. There's also a myth that circulates quietly in older circles: it's inappropriate at my age. That belief alone can stop someone from honoring their body's needs. But let me tell you this gently and clearly: your body still belongs to you. And you have every right to feel at home in it. Self-pleasure, when done with self-respect and care, is not a sin or a secret, it's self-love. It's your way of saying, I still matter. My comfort still matters. My body is still capable of joy. So what can you do? Start by letting go of the idea that this topic needs to be locked away. You don't need to broadcast your habits, but you also don't need to carry shame like a heavy coat. Talk to a doctor you trust. Not about what you're doing, but how you're feeling. If you've noticed tension, guilt, or physical changes, bring it up. You might be surprised at how supportive and normalizing that conversation can be. And most importantly, approach your own touch with compassion, not judgment. Light a candle. Slow down. Treat yourself the way you would treat someone you love, with care, with dignity, and with acceptance. Because when you release shame, you open the door to healing. To real connection. To improved circulation, both physically and emotionally. Your heart literally relaxes. Your blood flows better. And your spirit starts to soften, allowing you to feel again, not just pleasure, but peace. And now, we come to the final mistake. One that many people fall into, especially after long-term relationships have ended, whether by distance, death, or the slow erosion of passion over time. This one isn't just about how you touch yourself, it's about why you may have stopped feeling altogether. Let's talk about mistake number 5, and why this last one could be the most quietly damaging of them all. Now picture someone like Charles. He's 74. A retired engineer. Stoic, quiet, proud. His wife of 48 years passed away 3 years ago. And since then, he's found a quiet routine: coffee in the morning, feeding the birds, a crossword puzzle before bed. No one would ever know that some evenings, as the house settles into silence, Charles reaches for something familiar. Not because of desire, not because of joy, but because it fills the space where touch used to live. For Charles, masturbation became less about connection, and more about coping. A way to get through the night. A substitute for something deeper: intimacy. Now there's absolutely nothing wrong with comforting yourself when you feel alone. But here's where the silent mistake begins. When self-touch starts to replace the emotional closeness, the shared warmth, and even the vulnerability that true intimacy brings. You see, Our bodies were designed for connection. Not just sexually, but through gentle touch, eye contact, laughter, even quiet presence. When you hug someone you trust, when you sit shoulder to shoulder and feel safe, your body releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. It lowers blood pressure, eases tension, and supports heart health. But when we isolate, when we replace emotional connection with physical routine, the oxytocin never really arrives. We might get momentary relief from stress or loneliness, but our deeper needs remain untouched. This is especially true as we age. Because for many older adults, there's a quiet belief lingering in the background: it's too late for intimacy now. But here's the truth, spoken plainly and gently: intimacy doesn't expire. It changes. It matures. It becomes less about urgency and more about presence. Less about performance and more about being known. Somewhere inside, maybe you still crave that gentle touch. That warm hand brushing yours. That closeness of knowing someone sees you are not for what you were 30 years ago, but for who you are now. But fear can hold you back. Fear of rejection. Fear of judgment. Even fear of trying again. So you retreat. And in that retreat, solo touch becomes a habit. Not because it's what you need most, but because it's what's easiest. And while there's no shame in that, there is risk. Risk that over time, your emotional muscles start to shrink. Your willingness to connect fades. Your world becomes quieter. And your heart, both emotionally and physically, misses out on what it truly thrives on: shared closeness. Now here's the good news: it's never too late to reawaken connection. You don't need to rush into anything grand. Start small. Smile at someone new. Hold hands during a walk. Share a story. Open up about something you haven't said in years. And if you're in a relationship, even if it's grown cold or distant over time, try a gentle check-in. It doesn't have to be about sex. Sometimes just saying, "I miss being close to you," can be enough to open a door that's been locked for decades. If you feel uncertain, couples counseling isn't just for the young. In fact, for older adults, it can be a powerful way to heal from years of silence and rediscover emotional intimacy in ways that feel safe and nourishing. Because in the end, self-pleasure is meant to complement intimacy, not replace it. When it becomes your only source of connection, your heart starts to forget how to reach out. So don't settle for numbness. Don't convince yourself it's too late. Connection is possible at any stage, in any season, if you're willing to take that small step forward. And now that we've walked through all 5 of these silent mistakes, it's time we zoom out and look at what they really mean, not just for your body, but for your whole life. Let's talk about the heart of it all, what this journey reveals, and why it matters more than you might think. Facing these truths, it's not easy. You might be sitting there now, quietly thinking back over the last few months, or even years. Wondering if some of these habits crept in without you noticing. Maybe they did. And maybe you've blamed yourself, telling yourself things like, "I'm just getting old," or "this is just how it is now." But that's the weight we carry, isn't it? As we age, we're handed all kinds of silent burdens, shifts in our bodies, losses we didn't plan for, and moments where connection, true connection, feels like a thing of the past. It can feel isolating. You might not talk about it, not with your friends, not with your children, not even with your doctor. Because these topics feel off-limits. Embarrassing. Like you're the only one going through it. But you're not alone. So many older adults carry the same questions, the same quiet doubts, the same aches, not just physical ones, but emotional ones too. And that shame? That silence? It's a heavier weight than any wrinkle or gray hair. But here's something you may not have heard enough: you don't need to carry that weight anymore. Knowing the mistakes isn't about judgment. It's not about pointing fingers or telling you what you should have done. It's about awareness. It's about power. It's about gently lifting the veil off of something that matters and realizing you still have time, still have choice, still have strength. This journey isn't about giving anything up. It's about reclaiming something sacred. Your health, your dignity, and your right to feel alive in your own skin. Because whether you're 60 or 90, it's not too late to reconnect to your body, your energy, your partner, or even yourself. It's not too late to find peace, or to find pleasure, or to feel seen. So here's what I want you to do. Just one thing. Pick something from today's conversation. Just one. Maybe you start by slowing down the next time you're alone. Not rushing. Not escaping. But tuning in, gently. Maybe it's letting go of shame. Standing in the mirror, taking a breath, and saying to yourself, I'm not broken. I'm still whole. Maybe you call someone. A friend. A partner. Or even book an appointment with your doctor and ask a question you've been scared to ask. These aren't huge leaps. But they are powerful ones. Because small steps, when taken with intention, can lead to massive healing. And healing isn't just about fixing. It's about returning. Returning to a place inside you that knows how to love, how to feel, and how to live fully, even in the quieter chapters of life. So don't let anyone, not even the voice in your head, tell you that your best days are behind you. Because the truth is, the body remembers how to connect. The heart remembers how to open. And the soul, it never forgets how to heal. You just have to give it permission. So today we took a deep look at 5 common mistakes that many don't realize are quietly impacting circulation and intimacy after 60. First, there's over-reliance on pornographic stimuli, how leaning too much on screens can dull your natural responses and leave real connection feeling flat. Then, rushing through the act itself, hurting your body with fast, aggressive motions that do more harm than good. Third, the trap of frequency without awareness. Thinking that more is always better, when in fact it can drain your energy and essential nutrients. Fourth, the heavy burden of shame and secrecy, how hiding your needs can tighten your body and close off your heart. And finally, using masturbation as a substitute for intimacy, when what the heart really craves is connection with another human being, not just solo relief. Understanding these patterns isn't just about avoiding mistakes. It's about giving yourself a chance to feel better, to reconnect more deeply, with your body, with others, and with your own joy. Because these changes matter, not just for your health, but for your happiness and your dignity. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these points surprised you the most? Maybe one hit close to home? Or maybe you've noticed something similar in your own life or the life of someone you care about. Whatever it is, share it down below. Let's make this a space where honesty is welcomed and respect is always front and center. Because sometimes, the best healing begins when we simply talk about what's been kept quiet for too long. If this video gave you a little clarity, a bit of hope, or just a new way to think about aging and intimacy, please hit that thumbs up button. It helps more people find this message who need it. And if you want to keep learning and growing with a community that truly cares, go ahead and subscribe to Elders Wisdom Institute. We bring you thoughtful, honest advice every week, because aging well is a journey we don't have to walk alone. Thank you so much for spending this time here today. Remember to stay curious about your body, to be gentle with yourself, and to hold on to the truth that you're never too old to heal, to grow, and to love deeply. Until next time, take care and be well. I'll see you in the next video.